Welcome in everyone to another edition of the 70 Chipcast. This is the free agent frenzy edition of this podcast. We are in day what? Day five, I guess day three if you want to talk about new league year, but day five of free agency here. First wave is certainly over. Second wave, we're probably, I guess if you wanted to count, like we're probably in the middle of the second wave as we speak, but probably towards the end of that. Um, just as for reference point, it's 10:03 on Friday the 13th. So if something pops up, after this or while we're recording, we'll try to cover it if it happens during the recording, but um generally speaking, just keep that in mind as we have this discussion that, obviously something could massively change in the time after we record this, but just keep that as frame of reference. Ben, how are we doing tonight? Your overall opinion of free agency thus far?
I'm doing great. Everybody, always good to see you here for 70 Chipcast and glad to be back with Robertson. I'm 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 glad we're doing a lot of the things that we're doing. I'm not, I don't look at the moves that we made so far in free agency and just feel like, well, that was dumb, that was stupid, or boy, I wouldn't have done that. I'm also not completely satisfied that we've got something good to work with here. It's better, but man, it still leaves me wanting something. So, we'll see if they can keep chipping away here and making the team better. I'm not yet excited, right? And you, as a fan base, you'd love to enter an off season with hope and come out of the off season excited, and I don't yet feel that.
No, I don't either. And maybe that, I don't know. I feel like free agency is so different than it was even just 10 years ago, or maybe go back to when before social media was really a huge thing, where you only heard about, who you signed. You didn't hear about, oh, you're in the market for this guy, or hey, you guys are pursuing this guy, or something else. Like you might have heard that from some beat reporters and so forth, but not every single agent was tweeting out about this, or we didn't have like leakers or uh, just random people on Twitter just tweeting out like, hey, this guy's talking to this team, and this team's really pushing hard for this guy. Like we didn't really hear a lot of that. It's like if you signed him, you heard about it, and that was
Yeah,
it. Because this past week we've like, oh, we were right there with Alec Pierce. We were actually going to pay more than the Indianapolis Colts. We were right there for Trey Hendrickson. We were right there with Jalen Phillips, with Romeo Dobbs, with uh I don't know if Rico Dowdle was in there or not, but like there's so many different players that we've been. Oh, Tyler Linderbaum. We were really in on Tyler Linderbaum. It's like
yeah,
I almost don't want to know that we were, because pretty much all of the top tier or the quote unquote top tier free agents that were out there, certainly Hendrickson and Linderbaum, we certainly tried, according to reports. I don't know how hard we tried for Hendrickson. Um, Personally, he just doesn't fit the MO of the rest of free agency, at least the guys that we signed, but we tried for all these guys and we failed. So it if that's the case, then I feel like the organization kind of took a hit a bit, because just a year ago, like we were a place that people wanted to come. Like everyone was excited to work Jane Daniels. Everyone was excited to work with Dan
right.
Quinn and the new ownership group and the newfound passion in the building and so forth. Like everyone was so
That's what we all
jazzed.
thought, right?
That's what we all
Yeah.
thought. Everyone was so jazzed and excited to be a part of that. And man, the difference a season makes. Um, because if that's the case, then if you're going to overpay, grossly overpay for a receiver that, you're going to be a running mate for Terry, who only has a year left on your deal, and then you're going to probably be the primary guy, and you stay in Indy with Daniel Jones, and something there just didn't quite sit right with me. Same with Linderbaum. I mean, we were right there. Like, you're going to go be the center for, the Las Vegas Raiders and Fernando Mendoza, who, again, we don't know how he's going to be yet as an NFL quarterback, but man, I just. You have as like for Linderbaum, like you have tons of other protection around you if you come here at Las Vegas, you're the only one. You're probably going to get screwed half the time. Or maybe he's going to direct all the pressure away from him. I don't know. Um, I don't know, but I almost kind of wish that we hadn't known that we lost out on all these guys. Um, then we just would have been pissed off that we didn't pursue them. But I think I would have preferred that instead of saying, "Oh yeah, we don't really want to come there. We don't want to go there."
Here in just a minute or two, we will talk about all the guys we did sign. We'll look at them one by one, basically. And I'm not here to poo poo on those guys or dump on those signings. Basically, I liked what we did. But where my excitement hasn't yet hit, you mentioned it, is all the guys that were out there that we didn't get. And certainly you can question the legitimacy of whether or not we did go hard after those guys, right? It's line season from free agency all the way through the draft, right? So everybody's right to at least question that. But I won't spend any time doing that. Let's just assume we did try for those guys. We didn't get them. Had we gotten two edge rushers out of the higher end group, I probably would have been excited. I probably would have been like, okay, now we have definitely upgraded the room and we've got something serious to work with. We've got two guys that can bookend and maybe even grab a third one in the draft, right? Now you start to get excited thinking about possibilities. Had we been able to land, if we really went after him, had we been able to land Linderbaum at center, like you said, we would have gotten better and younger at center. I mean, double dip there, man. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we would have gone from having a pretty good O line to maybe one of the best, one of the better offensive lines in football.
Certainly.
That would have been exciting for me. Had we been able to land Pierce from the Colts, and listen, I don't call Pierce a 1A or a true difference maker, but boy, you pair him in theory with a new tight end and with McLaurin and with Jaden Daniels that we hope has a kind of a revitalizing third year here. Now I am excited. Those are things that could have happened that would have excited me, and none of them did. So that's where I'm still. It's like, yeah, I see us working, but I'm not excited on this yet. Those would have been the things that would have gotten the excitement meter up a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. And like you, I like all the signs that we've made. I don't know that I love. There's maybe one, maybe two that I
Yeah,
love.
right,
Outside of that, man, they're just like, okay, I like it. It's like, yeah, we're getting better,
right,
but I don't think there's other than those two guys I mentioned, or we'll talk about later. There's not really many difference makers that we've signed. There's a lot of
right.
like, well, if it pans out, like if this guy, it could work. It's like, well, yeah, it could work. It could also not work. But you gotta take your swings, you gotta take your hacks up there at the plate, and we'll see what hits. But um, I don't love what we've done. I like what we've done. It was necessary. We've been very active in free agency. I'll give, Peters credit for that, but we've had to be
Yes,
because we had 20, 30 spots to replace.
right.
So I'm not going to necessarily give too much credit as like, oh, we've been super active in free agency. Like, well, yeah, we didn't have a choice. We've had to be. Um, so let's go ahead and get started on who we brought back, at least. Now, in the last, I guess, hour and a half, 2 hours, there was news that Chris Paul had resigned on a 1 year deal. Apparently, he was told that he was going to get all this money, in free agency. He was going to be gone within the first day or two and get this
Yeah,
massive contract. And, you know, Peters kind of waited him out and signed him to a 1 year deal. Don't know the figures yet at this time, so he's not on this list here. But I think that's big, bringing him back. Probably going
yeah,
to have another competition between him and Coleman. Uh, so I'm excited to see that because ideally, you get Coleman to beat Paul out.
right,
I mean,
right.
ideally. But either way, I think there's going to be a good guard that's going to be there at the left spot. Um, and, we'll go from there. Because if Chris Paul has another great season as a left guard, then you have the conversation. Okay, we'll bring it back long term. Okay, I think they're
Right.
like, okay, let me see you do it again. I think they're wanting to do that, and obviously
Yeah.
they weren't going to pay for a franchise tag for him to do that. So I'm glad they brought Chris Paul back. To me, that solidifies the offensive line outside of the center position. But the left and right side, both, I think they are both very solid at this point. Now, just working our way up here, we already know about Tress Way. We know about Andrew Wiley. I think we've already talked about Nick Allegretti, him re-signing and so forth. Shy Tuttle, I It's actually kind of funny because I joked in the I think I don't know if it was the last episode or not that it's like, oh, who gives a rip about this guy? And then he's one of the first guys we bring back.
Bam, we got it done,
Yeah.
baby.
Dietrich Wise, I'm actually fine with them bringing him back. They brought him in for a reason last year. I mean, they liked what he was going to bring to the table. His season just ended after a game or two, so I'm fine with them bringing him back to truly see what he has. Plus, just needed bodies and needed depth along the defensive line, so I'm fine with that. Drake Johnson, he was a guy we got off of waivers last year. Sure, I'm fine if he wants to compete for a roster spot. Jake Moody, same deal. Traylon Burks, same deal. The big one is the Laramie Tunsil extension. I don't believe we've talked about that yet on air. Uh, no, it needed to be done. We both knew it needed to be done. Glad it got done. First on paper, first offensive lineman to get 30 million a season. Again, gonna tell you guys this, so if the numbers come out later and we look like donkeys, that's fine. But obviously the AAVs on most of these contracts that have been released, it's not truly what they're getting per year. Okay, on paper, yes, he's getting $30 million a year. Is that his cap hit? Is that truly what he's getting? Probably something close to that, but I don't know. So we're going to be patient on waiting for the true numbers for all these contracts to get released, and then we can react to them from there. Mariota being brought back, I think that's huge, even cheaper than what we got him for last year, which I
Yeah.
was shocked about. I thought we were going to have to pay more of a premium, especially since the cap went up. So naturally, everyone's salaries rise up a little bit, especially in free agency, but wasn't the case. He took rather substantial pay cut, I think. Either that, there just wasn't much interest. So I think that's huge. And then bringing back Trent Scott again, just another depth sign along the offensive line. Necessary. A lot of continuity there on the offensive line. Um, Nothing I'm upset about. Kind of like all these moves. A lot of like, hey, if you want to be on the roster, prove it. Um, so I like the competition. The lower bottom of the roster signings. I like those. Just it ensures that the best people are going to get on the roster. They're going to battle for it and fight for it. So I'm just fine with that. I don't have any qualms or gripes with any of the moves they've made yet.
Out of this group, I don't either. I'm always a big believer, and I've been, you know, vicariously GMing for about 25 years now in a variety of different ways. And I just, 2 decades ago, developed the philosophy if you had cheap guys on your team one year, there's almost no reason to not bring most of them back the following year. You keep the continuity, you keep the guys that kind of you already thought fit your system, and you don't create holes where there's no need to create holes. Because listen, at $1 million, $1.45 million a year, at $3 million a year for a punter, 7 for a backup quarterback, you're not going to go out and improve these positions, without throwing more money or higher draft picks at it. So at these spots, there's no reason not to bring these guys back unless one of them is an attitude problem and you're like, nope, we won't see you next year. Or unless one of them just starts to age out, right? But generally speaking, you're not going to bring in, you don't have the ability to just bring in a flood of talent that pushes these guys out. That's not going to happen for hardly any NFL team. So, yeah, everybody here, the offensive line, I think I especially like. Boy, we've got what, 8, 9 guys to work with. We wouldn't want all of them to start, but we wouldn't mind if any of them played. You mentioned the Chris
Sure.
Paul, Brandon Coleman thing. We would love for both guys to step up. So far, neither guy has truly consistently stepped up, but they could, either one of them. So, you know, I love the fact that we've got them sitting here. Yeah, Traylon Burks was a former first round draft pick, produced a little for us at the end of the season. It cost us nothing to bring this guy back, right? So
Hmm.
there's no reason not to do these deals. And then the Laramie Tunsil thing, I realize he's not what he was 4 years ago. He's still by far our most talented offensive lineman until our young right tackle steps up, and it's not even close. So having made the trade we made for him and having already allowed for room under the cap for him, there's no reason not to re-sign Tunsil. So listen, I was totally in favor with everything we did on this page here.
That, not to mention, outside of Jaden Daniels, he might be the best player on the team.
That's also true.
Which isn't
Until
a slight
somebody
against anybody
steps up.
else. Yeah.
No. Hey, there. Tunsil never. Listen, I love Tunsil, and I don't mean to criticize him, but this is a bit of a knock. Tunsil, even still, has never truly played up to his birth-given talent. He's
Yeah.
been very good. He's never truly lived up to all of it, but even a scaled down version of Tunsil is still way better than what most teams in the league possess as an offensive lineman.
Yeah. He was going to be what, a top 3 pick when he came out, and then all
Yeah,
that stuff happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't even
So
remember where he did get picked, but yeah, um, and it's just yeah, totally glad we gave him a new deal. It's a lot of money. Who cares? It's left tackle, and he's super talented. So
yeah, I mean, you got to pay a premium for a left tackle. So even if he has,
yeah,
I mean, he had one of his best seasons last year, at least, PFF wise, on paper wise. I mean, he had one of his best seasons, but at age, tackles have been aging a little bit better, the past 5, 6 years.
yeah.
So I don't truly mind giving that kind of money to someone who I think he's going to be 32, 33 years old. I don't
Right.
mind doing that. Now, obviously, I'm glad it wasn't a 3 or 4 year extension, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems appropriate. And I think the biggest one on this list is bringing back Marcus Mariota. Obviously he said he looked for other opportunities, but he said he ultimately he just didn't want to leave Washington. So I feel
Wow.
like even though we just got finished saying like, oh, maybe our reputation isn't all that great, you know, uh, Mariota, he said, he didn't want to leave Washington. It was a great culture. A guy we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Leo Chenal, in his introductory press conference, he said that, hey, I talked with Wiley and Allegretti, and they're like, yeah, you should come here. Like, it's great environment, great, it's a great place to play. We love the guys, love the coaches and everything. So, I mean, I still think the reputation is there. It's just maybe not as I still think a lot of these free agents look at performance. They want to be on the winning teams in the spotlight, and what the Giants are doing, what the Eagles have done. It's hard to say like, oh, we're going to be on these premier spotlight games. We're going to be in the playoffs for sure. Like I think they'd rather go to other teams that are either consistently winning or they just have a better chance at it.
There can always be a lot of things going on here, and I'm with just about everything you just said. Let's talk about our reputation real quick. I think our reputation has improved. I don't think we were wrong about last year, people wanting to be a part of this franchise where 3 or 4 years ago they would have steered clear of it. I think our reputation has improved, but, you know, horrible season. And then, some of the comments that kind of by people heading out the door indicated that maybe not everything is as clean within the, front office as maybe we want it to be. That could scare away some people. I do feel like with the idea being out there, and I hate to even keep bringing it up, but it's realistic with the idea that this coaching staff may be fighting for their jobs this year.
Yeah.
Maybe some free agents, if they've got choices, and the good ones do, right? The good ones have choices. Maybe they would rather go somewhere where they feel like, hey, no, I know who I'm playing for the next 3 seasons, not just one year. And in some cases, like Pierce, we just lost him to the team who was already on. So it there can be several things happening here, and maybe we weren't trying as hard as we've been told, but it does feel like we made some effort to get some of these guys. So I'm not trying to slam our front office, but we'll maybe we'll never know how hard we actually tried to get some of these guys. It does feel like some effort was made, and maybe there's more than one reason why we didn't land, all those top tier guys.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what we tried for Hendrickson. Honestly, I don't know how hard we tried. It doesn't fit
Right.
the rest of the guys that we signed. He would be the massive outlier, but he's a great player and we tried to trade for him last year. So maybe
Yeah.
we were really in on him. I don't know. But let's talk about the players we did get. Because no use in, crying over players that aren't here anymore or won't
Yeah.
won't be here. Um, so let's just start. We'll go three, maybe four at a time.
Okay.
Here, Amik Robertson. A lot of tweets about me. It's kind of strange. It's like Robertson said this. It's like, really? He did? I said that? That's crazy. Um,
Man, dang it.
Odafe Owe, he's probably at least on paper, the biggest signing here of this group
Right.
here. Um,
Yes.
it says 4 years, 100 million, 68 million of it's guaranteed. So it's probably more like a 2-year deal that's paying maybe about 18, 20 a season. That would be my guess, is probably what that looks like. Tim Settle, 3 years, 24 million, coming back to, the team that drafted him back. I think that was 2017, 2018, something like that. And then Leo Chenal, who we mentioned earlier. And I think that he's one of the guys that I'm going to love. One of the most impactful
Yeah.
signings that we've made. Um, Oweh, look, I'm fine with, by the way, I'm fine with Robertson. He's a versatile defensive back. I kind of hope he's not a starter. I really don't want him to be one, if I'm being honest
Right.
with you. I know they paid him like he's going to be one.
They did.
Uh, I just don't know how I feel about he's not a bad corner. He's just
Right.
not, to me, he's like a third or fourth option.
Yes.
And, if you want to make him play slot and have Mikey play outside, that's fine because I think that's probably the way it should be. But it
Okay.
sounds like you can kind of interchange both of them. That way you don't have to necessarily pick and choose. You can just like, okay, this matchup's here, and that's what we'll go with. So that I'm fine with that. Oweh, I'm not going to get too excited about him. He's 7.5 sacks a year, basically. 5 to
Right.
7.5. You're paying a lot for potential there, and you hope you can tailor your scheme how the Chargers did late last year. Um, so there's optimism there, but you get what you pay for. You're getting 5 to 7.5 sacks a year. Okay. Tim Settle, great depth along the defensive line. I'm totally fine with that. And then again, Chanel, I'm most excited for out of this group of players that we're talking about. Uh, Super athletic freak. Has played a lot of football in his young career. Two-time Super Bowl champion. Uh, I do have concerns if he's going to be the middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker with the green dot, because he hasn't done that before, and I don't think he's played those kinds of snaps before. So I do have some concerns there, but I'm very excited just about his impact and what he can do in a Brian Flores type of defensive scheme that Durante Jones is going to end up employing. So out of those group of players, your reaction?
I'm going to settle in on the Adafe Owe signing. And I may even touch on Chanel in a few minutes here, but us talk about Owe because that's probably the one that got the most people's attention outside of Commanders Nation. And a lot of people loved it outside of Commanders Nation, and that's fine. I like it too. So let me talk about the good and then the bad and the questionable. The good really is this. Uh, he fits the age, right? I think he's either 27 or he will be 27 at this, in December. I forget which. He's right in the sweet spot, so that's perfect. You had to do something at edge, had to. So check that box. You had to do something to help the defense, so check that box. He has shown that he can get some stress and pressure and sacks on quarterbacks for more than 2 seasons now. So check that box, right? And it's not a blow me out of the water kind of a financial deal. So all those boxes check. Totally fine with the deal. They had to do it. They really didn't have a choice. If it wasn't Owe, they had to get somebody in this kind of a category, right? They had to. So that box checks. What doesn't check is, he's really played for some pretty good talent around him for two different franchises now, and neither one of them chased him too hard. In fact, one of them traded him. So one was the Ravens, the other the Chargers. You know, and I'm not saying that they were flawless defenses because obviously they weren't, but they had talent around him, and I'm not sure that he can truly create a ton of pressure on his own without good athletes around him to help create that, right? So that's one problem. He ranked, I think, 38th in pressures the past 2 seasons combined. Okay. That's pretty good. I like that. But still, it's 38th in the league. That there's 37 guys ahead of him. And when you look at the elite guys, let's say the Micah Parsonses and the Trey Hendricksons and those kind of guys, Owe had, I think, 86 pressures the past 2 years combined. These guys were up around 145, 148 pressures. You realize that's almost twice as much pressures that they're creating. And some of those guys missed games, over the past couple of seasons. Then you get to the fact that before he got traded in 2025, he was really only playing about 45% of the snaps for Baltimore before they got traded. He was kind of starting to get out of favor. I don't think he even had any sacks. Then he shows up with the Chargers and he collects what 7.5, I think, during
Yeah.
his short tenure, which that's really good.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hey, I'll take that version of Oweh, right? But again, man, he's playing in a hardball defense, right? And he's got some fairly good talent floating around on that field. So they had to do it, and it does help. But this doesn't yet fix anything in terms of edge rushing. It just doesn't. They really need about three guys like this, you know? Um, so, because again, two franchises had him in their hands, and neither one of them made any effort really to lock him down for the long term, which, tells you they just didn't feel like they needed him. So I'm glad we did it. It had to be done. It will help us out a lot, but it's not anywhere near enough, man. We need two more guys really who can create pressure on the quarterback, whether it's up the middle or on the edge, either one. And so that's where I'm at on the Oweh signing.
What about the other three guys, Chanel, Settle, and Robertson?
Yeah, okay, Robertson I like, but I'm with you. I kind of sort of wish he wouldn't be a starter, but if he is, I'm not going to hate it. Uh, Decent player, good for rotation, and if you need him to start for shorter periods of time, I'm okay with it. Settle, that's fine. I kind of hate to throw more money at defensive tackle. We kept Deron
Yeah.
Payne and we're giving
Yeah.
him a buttload of money too.
Yeah.
But as far as Settle goes, I'm fine that we brought Settle in. That's fine. And then the Chanel, I thought the Chanel signing was a good signing too. I really do. Again, the age is right. The fact that he's very good against the run. I mean, very good. He won't do much getting pressure on the quarterback. He can occasionally do a straight blitz. That's it. You won't get much out of him on that. And then he can do decent in coverage, but he will not hold up. He will not hold up week in and week out if you ask him to do a lot of coverage snaps. He just won't. He can, if you limit his time where defenses can't focus on him, he will help. But the longer he's out there trying to cover these tight ends, slot receivers over the middle, he's going to get exposed, right? So that's a bit of a problem. But again, I thought that was a very good sign. It didn't cost us a ton, man. We spent the same amount on Chanel as we did on Settle, quite honestly. So I actually thought Chanel would get more money on free agent market. I thought we got a pretty good deal there, for a starting linebacker. I really don't want him out there playing 1,000 snaps a year, but 750, 800 snaps a year, get him right spots with other guys around him that he does have. I like the Chanel signing.
Yeah, I like the Chanel signing if he is complimenting somebody else. I don't think this closes the door on bringing back Bobby Wagner.
Right.
Um,
Agreed.
or, if at 7, Sonny Styles falls, you pick him up and you pair him with Chanel, and that's a heck of a linebacker room then with,
Yeah,
with
it
Chanel,
is.
with Luvu, and then Styles. And you can be really high on Jordan McGee if you want to be. That is a-okay, that's fine. Um,
Right.
I'm not going to put my hopes into what this will be his third year, fifth round
Third year.
linebacker.
Right.
I'm not having that man captain my defense, and I'm not going to bank on that in such a pivotal year. I would much rather bring back Luvu, or I'm sorry, not Luvu, Wagner. And then if Wagner is really just not fit fit for it anymore, then you can bring in McGee as kind of a not a last resort, but like as a backup plan. I'd be fine with that. Um, but man, I think Wagner and Chanel and Luvu, I think that's a great linebacker trio. Um, and if it doesn't work with Wagner, again, you got McGee back there as kind of a backup plan. But I still think that Wagner still has some left in the tank. Again, not in pass coverage. Let's be honest there. But that man is still a tackling machine. Okay, and he's going to be able to help Chanel. He's going to be able to help Luvu. He's going to be able to help the defense. Um, and again, not kicking the can down another year, but I mean, he's going to be a help. And then If McGee truly isn't ready, which I don't think he is going to be, then you can kind of weed him out throughout the year. But let's get to the next group of guys here. Kaylavon Chason, Chigakonkwo, Nick Cross, and Charles Omenihu. So Chason, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know a ton about him. Okay. 1 year, $12 million. Sure, that's fine. Former first round pick has had a couple stops already. The traits are there, the size is there. Um, it looks like he's got some speed, got some burst off the edge there. Again, he kind of seems like Oweh, kind of like the same, not the same guy, but like a similar body type, a similar style. Um, I've seen him in some of the highlight reels that I've watched. He's dropping him back in coverage, so if he has the versatility to do that, great. Um, I'm fine with a 1 year flyer on a guy like that. I don't know how much I love if those two are going to be your starting edge guys. I really don't know if I love that or not, but it's an upgrade than from what it was last year. Or if you want to rotate him and Armstrong out, that's fine too. Chuka Okonkwo, this is the second signing that I absolutely love. Because I think this is Chanel and then Okonkwo, I think are going to be the two most impactful signings of this free agent class. Chuka Okonkwo could very well have 70 receptions by the end of the season. Okay. He's fast. He's great after the catch for a tight end, especially for even for a receiver. He's pretty darn good. Now you put him at tight end, and he's really good with that. He's great at making people miss. He's great at fighting for extra yardage. He's great at finding space. He's got pretty good hands. And like I said, he's got some speed to burn there at the tight end position. Run a 4.5. I mean, that's pretty good for a tight end. That's gonna at least be he's gonna be able to match speeds of most safeties and certainly exceed for a lot of linebackers, and if not, beat a lot of linebackers. So love the Okonkwo signing. I think he's going to be a great fit for the offense, great fit, new safety blanket for Jaden. I love that signing. Nick Cross, again, look, he's a fine safety. I don't love him starting. I really don't. There's a reason he's only getting paid what he's getting paid. Is he an upgrade from what we have? Certainly. Okay. Would I love to pair him with a Downs? Yeah. I would love to pair him with a Caleb Downs. Unfortunately, there's just not really a lot out there for safeties right now. I don't think there's many out there available that would really truly upgrade the room. So he's probably the best we could have gotten, I guess, but I don't love it. I like it. It upgrades the room, but I don't feel any more confident in our secondary than I did a week ago. Yeah, it's upgraded, but I don't know by how much. And then Charles Omenihu, again, a fine rotational piece. Again, a guy that's kind of been one of these failed first round pick guys. The traits are there, the talent's there, sure, but no, nothing about this group is blowing me away yet, other than Okonkwo, because I think he's just going to make the most impact of these signings. But um, these signings are having a theme. It's like, okay, we're raising the floor just bit by bit. We're raising the talent floor of this defense.
Right.
But none of these guys scare me. None of them do. I'm looking for the difference maker of these signings. I don't see that yet, other than Okonkwo. Maybe Chanel, but outside of those two, I'm struggling to find a difference maker on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't think, and listen, there's not many difference makers in free agency in the first place anymore. But what few there were, we didn't get them, And I
Yeah.
don't listen. I don't mean to knock Oweh, but you're right. Oweh is at the moment he's somewhere between a 5.5, 7.5 sack a year guy, and nobody's seen any more than that yet. So maybe we can bring out the best of him. Amenahue, that's fine. 1 year, 7 mil. He's going to get 400 snaps, 500 snaps. Hopefully not more than that. And that's fine. Nick Cross, I'm with you. I don't want Cross starting. I really don't. He's okay. That'll help. But boy, I really wish this would have excited me if we had signed Alohi Gilman. Instead Kansas City went and picked him up. Hey,
Hmm.
that would have been a real upgrade, and still fit into the age profile that we were looking for, fairly close, right? Not over 30. Well, we didn't do that. That's fine. Chase on. I really don't know how he's getting 11 million a year, but it's for only 1 year. So what do I care? That's fine.
Right.
Bring him on into the rotation. That's totally fine. Okonkwo, the past 3 years, Okonkwo has been nothing if not consistent. He's like 55 catches a year, 2 touchdowns, and about 500 yards. I mean, it's been bam, bam, bam. You can just count on it, and not even with a great franchise. So maybe he does tick up a little bit for us. But even if he doesn't, if he settles in at 50 catches, 500 yards, and 2 touchdowns, I've been banging on the Commanders here for 2 or 3 seasons now to upgrade at tight end. This is an upgrade. I don't think there's any question about it, and still fairly on the younger-ish side. So yeah, I'm fine with it. Doesn't cost us all that much, 10 mil a year, and like you've said, depending on how they divvied that up, it might not even be 10 mil a year. It might be a little bit, staggered off of that. So I thought the Okonkwo signing, it didn't blow me away, but it's an upgrade. It will help the offense. So I like it. I think the Okonkwo signing, I tell you, it doesn't excite me, right? But paired with the offensive line that we have successfully worked on during the past 2 off seasons, and paired with a young quarterback that we still have hopes in, and you put a tight end here who's been productive for 3 seasons now. Beside that, that's got some unity to it, right? You can start to see the offense maybe slowly foundation in itself, right? So
Hmm.
that's good. Does it scare anybody? No. Does it blow anybody away? No. Is any defensive coordinator going to have to spend any time, sleepless nights trying to figure out this particular combination? Probably not, but still, it's something. So I do like that Okonkwo signing. I think there's some real value there.
So another piece about the Okonkwo signing is that when he was having discussions with us, David Blau had showed him defensive or Detroit Lions offensive tape.
Okay.
So that tells me that this is going to look a lot like the Ben Johnson offense.
Okay.
So, we're talking, before it was Hawkinson, now it's Laporta. Okonkwo is going to fill a similar role, I would assume.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a whole different, role than what he had in Tennessee. If that's if you obviously he's not Sam Laporta, you know,
Right.
but if he's filling
Still.
that similar role where it's a lot of play action and he's going to be wide open half the time and he's a yak guy too,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of upside there.
It's a good point. Yep.
Also just telling that this is going to be a Ben Johnson style offense for not
Right.
maybe not through and through, but primarily, yeah. I mean, that's telling. I also think it's telling that man, they don't really believe in Ben Sinnott all that much, do they?
I don't think so, and it's too bad because I really liked Senate coming out of Kansas State, and I'm not saying he doesn't have some place on this team, but he hasn't yet shown that he can produce on offense. So I think that's right.
All right, last three guys so far. At least I'll refresh here, see if we got anything else. I don't think we've got any other signings here, but last three guys that we've signed here. Rashad White, 1 year, $2 million. I mean, quite frankly, a steal, especially when Chris Rodriguez is getting paid 5.5, 6 million a season. And I really wanted to bring Rodriguez back. I really did.
I did
But
too.
um, if I can get Rashad White for two, I mean, to me, that's not really much of a question at that point. I think White is clearly more talented, has a lot more athleticism than Rodriguez does, a lot more possibilities with White there. De'Ami Brown bringing him back, fine. Van Jefferson, fine. These were two receivers you had to add because you need veteran presence and if Terry goes down or if you really can't find wide receiver two, whether in the draft or still out there in free agency, then at least you're somewhat covered with competent wide receiver play. You're not,
Right.
pulling from undrafted free agents trying to get them to to play a lot of meaningful snaps like you did last year. Shall I point to the Seattle Seahawks game? Um, so fine signings. Again, nothing on there has blown me away. A lot of people are so excited about Rashad White, and I'm like, I don't see it. He's a great third down back. You maybe got one of the better third down backs in the league, but is he RB1? No. No, he's not.
No.
Um, so what this does is yeah, I'll show you what it does. Okay. First of all, what is your reaction to those three guys?
So I'm the same as you. I'll focus on the two wide receivers real quick for just a second. Jefferson Brown, yes. Signings like this. So signings like that, and for me, the Nick Cross signing, Amenahue, Amik Robertson, these are way better. Way better. These are smart signings that are way better than your fifth round draft pick from 2 seasons ago having to step in and get 300 snaps because they usually aren't capable. It's
Right.
way better than your seventh round pick or your UDFA that you grabbed in the middle of summer, right? This is way better. These are guys with experience, maybe guys that have disappointed a little bit, but guys that have at least fit the athletic profile of a first or second round pick. These kinds of signings are way better. Maybe they've had one fantastic season and the rest of their seasons have sucked booty, but these signings are way better than your average fifth round pick to UDFA from the past 3 seasons would be able to come in and do. They just are, So these are smart signings, but again, more than likely, there's not going to be any major impact off of that. So your ceiling, your floor boosting thing is good. Rashad White, listen, I understand he's got good yards per carry, but this is not a this is not a full time back. Basically, what White will do, he'll crack off 2 to 3 really nice games a year, excellent games. I mean, he may pop off 150 yards in one game, 2 touchdowns, and that'll collect some attention. But then he's also going to pile up multiple weeks where the production is almost nil. Okay, and so that's what you're going to get out of Rashad White. He does have some burst. He can have a big game or two during the season, a big play or two, and that'll get on the highlights. But this is not a guy who's going to change the room or carry the room or anything the room. It doesn't do that. Okay. And that's why he's getting, what is it, 1 year, whatever, 2 million he's
Two
getting,
million, yeah.
right? That's why. He doesn't change the room. So I liked him. We even mentioned him 2 or 3 weeks ago on the show. But no, that's not something to get excited about. And I'm not sure that, other than a little bit of maybe that occasional game where he does burst, I'm not sure the running back room has overall. I think it's still net about what it was heading into the offseason.
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit more dynamic because he's probably the best athlete of that room.
Probably,
Um,
yes.
and again, I picked up a premier third down back if you put him in that role. He's catching 40, 50 balls a season out of the backfield, so that's a
Yeah.
lot of production there. So that kind of replaces Austin Eckler in that regard. But as RB1, he's not that. Um, and what this does, and I'll transition here. I put up our depth chart just to kind of give everyone a snapshot of what we have here. What this does is for the draft that's coming up is none of these signings have they've solved some issues, but they haven't solved any of the problems of the overarching problems. You look up and down this depth chart, if the season started tomorrow, you'd be scared with this depth chart,
Yeah.
trotting this out onto the field. So what this does is um, it allows you to take the best player available at 7 because there's not an absolute need anywhere necessarily. Like, hey, we have got to get this position figured out because you stabilized everything, but man, there's still a lot of holes in this roster. There's still a lot of room for improvement. I mean, wide receiver two, obviously, that's the big one. Center, that's a big one. I still think a true edge pass rusher. Um, Owe, Chason, fine. Armstrong, Amenahu, Wise, fine, right? Difference makers on along that defensive line, no, not there. Corner, difference maker there, no. Sorry. Safety, no. Linebacker, I mean, you should got Chanel and Luvu at least, but Mike linebacker, don't have that there either. Um, and then running back, I mean, you got Merritt or you got Bill there, who's again, I would debate if they drafted Jeremiah Love. So those were your three backs, Jeremiah Love, Rashad White, and Krusky Merritt. That Krusky Merritt's probably not going to touch the ball a whole lot. You know,
Yeah,
he's just not going
right,
to do it. Um, I mean, you could pick up anybody. Like, so you've stabilized the other positions to where it's like, okay, we have a solution. It's not the solution, but we have a solution if we don't address the position.
right.
You've done that much, but man, there's a lot of holes on this roster still. I mean, a lot. Um, because none of these, I mean, interior defensive line, I'm looking here, Deron Payne, Tim Settle, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton. In theory, it should be a great group. You know, it should be a great group, but it's not. Not, I mean, it hasn't been. Okay, I'll say that. Owe, Armstrong, Chason, Amenahu, Wise, fine players, all fine players. But nobody is scaring the bejeebers out of me as an offensive coordinator. I'm like, okay, yeah, we got it this week. You know, that's what I'm feeling like. So, uh, I'll let you react to the roster, and then I have a few questions for you.
It, I would love to talk about every position group on this roster, but let me just hit a couple and then bounce about to you, and we can hash over anything. I like the offensive line and the tight end combination. That's that's a good working group right there. But we still have a hole at center, as far as I'm concerned. It surprised me because me and you didn't get to talk about this on air. It surprised me that they let go of Biotish. That surprised me. I wanted to keep him for one more year and have a younger center. You said the same thing essentially. Have a younger center kind of pushing up behind him and ready to go for year two, because there are some centers in this year's draft that I do like, which maybe that's their goal. Maybe they've got their eye on that happening. Maybe they've already got some names that they feel like they can get one of them. So, I don't hate that, but again, at the moment, hole at center, but let's pretend that they're going to fill that to some degree. Offensive line good, tight end good. Wide receiver group, man, McLaurin will scare some people, but he's one guy. You know, wait, the defense can focus on that, okay? And Okonkwo will help, but he's not going to take off enough, and those running backs are not going to take off enough. So if the defense wants to take, if the defense identifies McLaurin as our best weapon, they can take that away. So what the wide receiver group is still way lacking. We've got guys playing, second and third roles who probably should be third, fourth, or fifth roles. So that's a problem to me. Nose tackle, I mean defensive tackle. Dang it, there's just no burst there, man. We're paying a lot of money to have no burst there. Okay, it's not bad. It's not good either. The edgers, Owe helps, but we were talking about that. It's not enough. Nowhere near enough. The linebackers, you said it, Luvu and Chanel. I know teams with worse linebacking situations, but I know teams with a lot better too. I didn't say it yet. I would love to bring back Wagner at hopefully 6 mil, 5 mil. Would love to bring him back. I think that would be great. But man, we really need another linebacker in the room too. Okay, and hopefully somebody who can play the middle, do a ton of tackles, do a ton of play calling, and can hold up in pass coverage. If they can't hold up in pass coverage, we still got problems. They got to at least hold up in pass coverage. Safety, man, still make that's got to be one of the three or four worst safety tandems in the league at this point. Okay, and I know a couple teams that are worse, so I'm not going to label us the worst. That's a problem to me. That's a real dang problem right now at safety. Both of those guys really. If we had a great safety, I would be okay with one of those guys linking up with him. We'd be okay. But man, that's the two guys we got. And then the cornerbacks you mentioned. I still have high hopes that Trey Amos, turns out to be pretty good. Not shut down, but pretty good. And then Sandra Steele and Robertson, it's okay. And there's man, that's just Where's our difference making on defense? You know, some of these guys should be a little bit farther down the depth chart than they are, and not getting as many snaps as they're going to get, and not being counted on to do as many big things as they're going to be counted on to be doing. To me, still a lot of holes in the roster as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there is a lot. So, a lot of discussion right now on what you do at seven. We'll get to that here, and we're going to talk about that obviously over the next couple weeks as well.
Yeah,
Um, Biggest need right now, arguably, is wide receiver two, because you trot out De'Ami Brown or
yeah,
Luke McCaffrey out there. It's like, oh, man, that just doesn't, that doesn't even scare some of the third or fourth stringers on the defense, right? Um, so. Brandon Ayuk, obviously that's the topic of conversation, has been for a while now. I'm honestly surprised. I don't know if Jawan Jennings is really just holding out for a larger contract. I feel like that's kind of past at this point. He's probably been told things that his agent is not not been able to hold up his end of the bargain.
yeah.
Um, I anticipated us pursuing him, but there have been no reports about that. Brandon Ayuk, look, it looks like the 49ers are going to be petty spaghetti over here and hold on to him as long as possible. Because they don't owe him any money. They don't owe him a single cent. And maybe they're going to dangle him as a late round, like when they get to day three and they're like, hey, who wants a receiver here? Um, just give us a fifth or a sixth round pick and you can have him. Maybe they do that. Maybe they just hold them to be petty and be like, you don't have a choice. You have to play for us. I don't know. It's gonna get uglier before it gets better though, which honestly I'm surprised about. I don't expect this from the San Francisco 49ers. I don't care how much they've been slighted by the player or not. I mean, you just want to be done with this. You don't want to go, bring in a bunch of players in the draft and then immediately they're dealing with drama of a high profile receiver and his drama. Like, why would you want to do that? Like, I get it. Like, your feelings are hurt. You feel like you pissed away a bunch of money. Understandable, right? But you got most of it back. Number one. And number two, it's like, why do you want this hanging over a new group? Just cut ties
Right.
and get it over with. And I'm not saying that for selfish reasons, um, necessarily, but I just don't understand it. So, question is, if he does, he will come free eventually. If he does come free, do you want him signed? Does it make sense for him to be signed? Or, I mean, honestly, would you be okay with bringing in Jawan Jennings or both? I've thought about both. Bring in
Right.
both. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, De'Ami Brown, Van Jefferson, Traylon Burks, one, two, or all three of them could go. As long as you're getting decent production and you feel like you can trust Brandon Ayuk. Um, all of them could hit the road, and I would be fine with that. You're not severely tied to any one of those guys. So I personally, I want to bring in at least one of them, if not both of them. Uh, Mainly Jennings would be insurance for Ayuk. Um, Money's got to make sense, obviously, but I'm in favor of at least bringing one of those guys in, if not both. Again, money's got to make sense. I understand Ayuk's a head case, but if this is truly where he wants to be, and Peters believes in him, Jaden Daniels believes in him, I think it would be okay. I don't know that he's going to return to 2023 form, but it's got to be better than anything else we've had at wide receiver two for a while.
Yeah. I tell you, and I'll let me hit a quick thought first, and then I'll tell you that I do agree with exactly what you're saying here on Ayuk and Jennings. I actually do. One thought I've had throughout this early off season here is, dang it, we sure got put in a bad spot by the previous regime. Just talent wise, not in a good spot, man. The offensive line was not in good shape. The linebacking core was not in good shape. The secondary was not in good shape. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on about what I personally feel like the last regime did from a talent standpoint. This new regime has had two off seasons already to fix it, and while they have fixed the offensive line, and we think we hope that they have fixed quarterback, there's still a lot of other spots that they haven't fixed. Okay. So those two combinations of things from, say, the past four off seasons now leaves us with tons of holes to fill. And you just can't get all that done in one off season, you know? And, you know, maybe if we had landed a couple more of these free agents, we might be looking at a little bit better shape, but we didn't. So that's been the thought right there. So having been put in this situation, partly by ourselves, partly by people who are no longer with us, having put in that spot, I actually totally agree with you. It's not my favorite way of building, but I would be 1,000% in favor of bringing in both the wide receivers you mentioned, Brandon Aiyuk and Jauan Jennings. And again, if they're looking to break the bank, then I probably won't do that, right? I'm not handing out 4 and 5 year deals worth top end free agent money. I'm not doing that. But boy, if I could catch them on 3 year deals with basically 2 years guaranteed, and I could catch them, and again, I'd have to research the real money, but if I could catch them around 20 mil a year, 22 a year, where I'm only guaranteed for 2 seasons, on the hook for 2 seasons, it would definitely upgrade the room. I believe they're both healthy at this point, having had a few months to come off of missing, one of them missing a whole season, one of them having an injury, kind of a riddled season. So I believe they're both going to be healthy by the start of next season. You look at the statistics from the past 2 or 3 years, especially Aiyuk, but Jennings too. They've produced. There's some real production there. It's not, gee, I hope they do. It's no, they really have. So, boy, if you were to add those two guys, that would get me excited. And I typically don't want to build a franchise that way, but the spot we're in with the things we're kind of up against right now, I think we need it. So, yeah, I'd be totally happy.
So, I mean, yeah, good points by both. I think that adding Jennings, adding Ayuk, I think that would get me excited for the offense,
Yeah,
like you.
yeah,
That would definitely get me excited for this offense. I think even though they're guys that even might only be average-ish receivers, I mean, they each might only get 40 catches, 600 yards, something like that, and a couple touchdowns for each of them. That's fine. I think it's still a better run offense with those guys on the field, along with Terry, along with Okonkwo. Even with a running game, if you stick with Bill and Rachaad White as your running backs, as your primary backs, that's still a really good offense. I'm not gonna say it's top flight, but with you add Jaden to the mix and that offensive line, that has definitely has the potential to be a top 10 offense. It certainly does. Um, so what the cost is for that, I don't know. We will see. Um, and again, this opens up anything that you can do at seven. Okay, so
right,
you can go running back, you can go receiver, you can go hopefully defense, whether that be defensive line, whether that be safety. You can trade back. You can trade back, accumulate some more picks. Pick up a corner in that 11 to 15 range if that's where you end up trading down to. Maybe pick up an extra third or a second. Uh, get a center. Get your center in the third round with pick 71. You
right.
can still pick up a defensive guy and a receiver. There's so many different ways you can go now, because you've again not solved any long-term uh, positions yet, or any of these positions yet for
Yeah.
the long term. But what you have done is you've made it so you can go anywhere with this first round pick. So if we make no other signings, which I know obviously we will before the draft, but if we make no other
Right.
signings, substantial signings, um, from now to the draft, what would you do at seven?
I'm being a hypocrite when I say this because I've preached certain things for 20, 25 years now. But it's been a long standing philosophies I have on these things. But I've always said sometimes you're in certain situations where you got to do certain other things different ways. And I think we're right there. So my typical preference is to stick at seven, get that top talent, and always look farther down the road than just this next season. I think that's important ways to build franchises. But man, out of all the mock simulations we've run, both with you on air and by myself off air, I come out happier with trading the seventh pick. I just have consistently come out happier that way with this current Commanders roster and with this current draft this year. Now, if David Bailey or Ruben Bain is sitting there at 7, I'm probably going to stick and pick, to be quite honest. I just, that's going to help a major need. I think both those guys can get to the quarterback, different ways of doing it, but I think both guys can do it. Bain can stay on the field for all 3 downs. You can even kick him inside sometimes if you really want to change up the look of the defense. Bailey, that's a hardcore edge rusher, quick twitch guy with several moves. He's going to get eaten alive in the run game, but I don't have to keep him out there on the field for all those running downs if I don't want to. So aside from that, those 2 guys sitting there at 7, I think I'd trade down and do some variation of what you just said. Let's say I trade down to 14 and maybe I pick 44 and pick 71 along the way, right? Maybe I have to send back a 5 to do it, right? Shoo, I can start to address several positions now with decent guys. Probably never all pro or Pro Bowl level guys, but maybe quality starter level guys fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean it's well, like you said, it can't just be about this year. So yes, if you believe that there is a true difference maker at 7 that you just cannot for the life of you pass up, take him.
Right,
Take him.
right.
Right. But if there's this cluster of guys and you're like, you know what, we'd be fine with any one of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And you trade back to 12, 13, and you with reasonable confidence think that one of them's still going to be there at 12 or 13,
Yeah,
I think you owe it to, if you can get, obviously the trade's got to make sense, but if you can pick up enough picks to justify it, I would certainly move back. It's going to allow you to address more positions of need. And like you said earlier, there's not a lot of draft picks from I don't think there's any draft picks from the previous regime left on Quan Martin might be it. I might
wow.
be missing Cosme might be it. You got Paul. So I guess there's still a few, but man, there's not many left. There's just not. So the the cupboards were bare when we got here, and quite frankly, so far, none of the draft picks that we've had made the past couple years have really made much of a substantial difference. I mean, there's a couple contributors on here, but no one that's blowing the doors off of anybody. So you get more bites at the apple that way. You can try to address more positions, especially, I mean, there's so many different positions that need. Um, I think that, if you want a receiver, there's tons of receivers. First round, second round, third round, there's tons of them. You want a corner,
Yes.
and then probably try to address that first or second round. Uh, it allows you to pick up a center in the third round, or if you get a fourth round pick. It allows you to address safety potentially. There's just so many different avenues that you can go here. Um, whether you stick and pick or whether I ideally trade down. There's a lot of possibilities here. So, man, at what I would do at 7 if we had to stay at 7 is if he's there, I think you pick Caleb Downs if he's there. I think he would be
Yeah,
at 7.
yeah.
That's going to vastly improve your secondary. And I understand there's the quote unquote positional value there. Look, if he's a great player, he's a great player. Are you telling me if you were to redraft, what was that, 2022, that Kyle Hamilton wouldn't go higher than 11?
Right.
Or what it was, 11, 14, something like that? You're telling me he wouldn't go higher? Come on now. Come on. Let's be honest with ourselves. So again, positional value, sure, probably not there for the 7th overall pick, but is he going to be a standout guy? If you believe he is, then I'd probably go that way. I understand the Jeremiah Love thing. I even understand the Tate, was it Carnell Tate? I forget what his first
Mm,
name is. Um,
yep.
I understand that, but I really want to address defense, even though we've heavily focused on it in free agency. Still needs more work, clearly.
It does. And I'd be happy with any of the guys you mentioned. If we took Caleb Downs, I would not be disappointed. If we took Carnell Tate, I would not be disappointed at all. Both of those guys will work. If we took Sonny Styles, I would not be disappointed. People might scream because it's linebacker. I don't care. Scream away. Go watch the tape. Go watch the tape, then come back and scream. All right. Don't just watch the highlights. Watch some tape on Sonny Styles, then come back and scream. Okay. Listen, That's five guys I think we've mentioned right there that I would be happy with. The only reason I would prefer those edge rushers is because we're so dry as dust outside of Oweh, and I just think he needs somebody, man. If he's operating by himself, we may get lower production out of him than what we've seen the past two seasons, right? So I want to boost him, not shrink him. Uh, but if Bailey and Bain aren't there, and one of those other guys there is, somebody's got to be there at 7. They're not all going to get drafted up before our 7th pick, so somebody's going to be sitting there that we like, and it's not going to bother me if we stick and pick at all.
I'm half wondering. So Terry McLaurin, he's on the last year of his deal, pretty much. I
Yeah,
mean, he's got 2 more years, but his cap number goes crazy after this upcoming season. You got Deron Payne there. He's got a massive cap number.
yeah.
I'm not so sure that either one of those wouldn't be used as trade bait in some form or fashion.
Wow. Yeah,
Which, Deron Payne is not going to be a huge loss if I'm being completely honest with you. I just don't think he's going to be a huge loss if you lose. I mean, sure, you'd like to have someone there at tackle. He's
right.
the most proven guy of that group.
Yeah,
But man, with that cap number, not great. Understand it's only one season, but shoo, that's not great. And then Terry, I mean, I don't think that this regime truly loves Terry McLaurin. I think they're like, this is what we have. We can't really get any better than him currently. And he's a fan favorite and he's a stand-up guy. Sure, we'll keep him. I don't think they're in love with him though. I think if they added, for example, if they added both Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk, I think he would be out the door. If they could get
wow.
if they could get some legitimate, uh, trade assets for him, which I don't know what he would fetch these days, but if they could trade him, I really think they would. If they could get like a late first, early second for him, and maybe package him with a Deron Payne or with somebody else like a Quan Martin or a Sanderstill or something like that to get a higher first round pick or something like that. I think they'd do it. I really think they would. For whatever reason, I don't really think they love Terry. Um, I think, and if you could get some trade compensation for him and get younger and get faster, and I think they'd do it. I really think they would.
Yeah, and I wouldn't hate it, especially if, like you said, they were to bring in Ayuk and Jennings both, which I don't know, maybe they're not thinking about that at all. Maybe that's exactly what they're thinking. I don't know. If they were to do both those things, then I'm sure that they would run. They would let McLaurin go for some pretty good draft picks there, and that's fine. I get that. I would prefer that they get something good for McLaurin as opposed to letting him age and money out and then getting a 5th round pick for him because he's already showing a loss in step and has a huge cap number attached, right? I would much prefer that. I will say the last thing here, I wish we all got access. We don't, we never will. I wish we all got access to the true chaos that free agency is because it is an absolute circus out there. I mean, my gosh, we get the tip of the iceberg. Even with social media today, we really only get the tip of the iceberg between the agents who are calling up everybody, literally, and lying half the time trying to jig up the best deal for their client, which is their job, right? And the general managers and their staffs that are calling everybody. And you may have, of course, you have 5 offers out to 5 different guys in the same position group, knowing that you're not going to get all of them. And once one guy signs, you're like, you call the other guys up, you're like, no, we don't need y'all anymore.
Yeah.
But man, when the top 3 guys you were after all signed somewhere else, you're like, dang it. And then all of a sudden, your 4th guy, the price has gone up. You're like, well, we don't want to pay that much to that guy. It's like, well, what do we do with that position group? And you end up sometimes fixing position groups that weren't your top priority because it's just the way it worked out. Sometimes you end up paying way too much, but you had to fix a position group. I mean, the chaos that goes on and kind of the ensuing fallout, right, is insane. We're seeing some of it here with Washington, no doubt, but it goes on for every team. It just doesn't always work out in your favor, you know? So, yeah, if we still got some work to do, a lot of work to do. And if we could upgrade the wide receiver room, like you said, I can get excited, and then the draft can be used back on defense again. It gives us a chance.
Yeah, it does. And I guarantee you those agents out there, they're lying to their players all the time. Like, hey, like
Yes,
I guarantee you a team would lowball a player and they're not even going to tell them about it. They're like, yeah, the team really wasn't that interested. And they'll just leave it at that. Like, well, what do you mean they weren't
right.
interested? Ah, they just weren't interested. Because
Yeah,
the agents, I mean, granted, they're in it for the players, they're representing the players, they're in it for themselves too. I mean, come
they're in it
on.
for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't believe that, Rich Paul, Scott Boras, I don't know really any of the big NFL agents, NFL player agents, but man,
Right.
yeah, just agents in general, they're out for themselves too. So, yeah.
They
But
are. That's a huge thing. It's not that it never gets talked about, it just doesn't get talked about often enough. The power plays that go on here, wanting to steer your client away from certain teams or general managers you don't even like, knowing that basically you can get something close to the same money, and then you just tell your client, well, that team didn't even offer much, because you just didn't want your client to go there. Or there's all kinds of power plays that go on. It can be astounding. So it's an absolute zoo out there.
but I'd love to be part of it.
Yes.
I'd love to be
Wouldn't
part
we
of
all?
it. All right. Please make sure you're subscribed to Pro Football Enterprises YouTube channel here. Ben does a lot of great work. He puts out a lot of draft prospects. Casey Concepcion, that's a guy we talked about heavily last episode in our mock draft. So
We did.
make sure you go check out that profile there. Putting out a lot of different mock drafts for different teams. Um, it's a great channel. It's got great content. It's not just me. It's not just Ben. It's Ben.
Yeah.
It's Shane. It's Simon. Yeah, I'm sprinkled on in there. So if you don't love me, that's fine. You can skip these episodes that I'm in and watch everything else and enjoy it. But really, it's fantastic content. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you have notifications turned on for anytime that content gets released. Then you want to give anyone a tease of what you're working on right now?
Well, I want to say here that commander's full mock with trades right there on the lower left screen. It's got 63 views. That's a much better show than what that view total is catching right there. So I encourage y'all. We just released that a week ago, and I know free agency can change some of that, but not too much. A lot of our needs are still the same, believe it or not, even though we've
Yeah.
kind of helped the rooms. That really is a video worth watching. So those of you who haven't yet had a chance to go back and watch it, that really is one right there. Me and Robertson did. That was the first one we actually did with trades, and again, it's a real debate whether to stick at 7 or move down and see what you can get. We explored the options right there of what you can get when you trade back. I believe not once but twice, right? I think that's what we did on that episode. So, I encourage y'all to go check that out. Very much one worth it. And then if you're curious about some of the prospects, we take a good 15 to 20 minutes on these guys here. Two or three of us talking about these guys. You can see Concepcion here and Jennings Dunker here and Michael Trigg say, well, those guys aren't for the Commanders. That's fine. We have more guys here. So, if you're interested in some of those prospects, it's there as well.
I also forgot to shout out Austin Friggin. No, he's part of their
Yes,
you know,
huge part.
yeah, so
Yep.
wanted to shout him out as well. Um, Anything else before we head out of here?
No, we had just a little technical difficulties tonight. So if for some reason this ends up being a two-part episode, we apologize. But we really appreciate everybody listening. We love this kind of work. We largely do it whether we get 3 views or we've caught over 1,000 on some of these shows. So we just love doing the work. We really do put a lot of work into this, but we also appreciate people watching it as well. So share it, and we appreciate it.
All right, we will see you all next week.